which means listen to the other side. They intend to argue that it would be unjust or oppressive to surrender them to South Africa. Eyewitness News has learned that the pair's review application may be heard in July. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
Gold's trading at $3,351.11 an ounce. The rand's at 17.82 to the dollar, at 24.10 to the pound, at 20.28 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.66 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 south in the Bryanston area between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive while travelling on the N3 north. There's delays between the Geldenhuys interchange and the Kilulis interchange due to a stationary vehicle.
Look at your weather. Clear skies in Gauteng this afternoon. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 20 and 22 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Gauteng police have launched a manhunt following the discovery of a body at the Zamimpilo informal settlement in Riverlea.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Your stories,
Your questions.
702 listens. You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 1 o'clock. Welcome to 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, on this Wednesday, the 4th of June. If you're like, why is she in such a good mood today? Guess what, guys? I have got another 5,000 Rand to give away in our masterclass together with Absa Home Loans. And not just that, they are in the building, and some of our fantastic listeners are in the building already. That will be coming up a little bit later. But what we're kicking off with is having a conversation around first-time experiences. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something for the first time? What was it like? What did it do for you? And this is something that I'm super keen on, of course, with my 40 before 40 sort of bucket list that I'm trying to do. I'm so yearning for new experiences and things that I've never tried before. So this is quite an exciting conversation for me, and I look forward to hearing from you. And we will also be joined by Sinem, the founder of Conscious Psychologist, for that conversation. Our finance feature, we're talking about building wealth in your late 30s and 40s. Is it too late? Is it too late for those of us in that age group? And we will have that conversation with Investec Life CEO and Head of My Investments, Darren Berendt. And then at 2 o'clock in the second hour of the show, it has been a year together with Absa Home Loans, and we are going to be going out with a bang because we're going to be jumping out of studio and going upstairs where we have so many of you that have joined us in the building for us to talk about our different home ownership stories, all the property matters, all the questions that you want to ask. Now, don't worry, we're not going to exclude you. The lines will be open, not just because we're giving away 5,000 Rand, which you have to listen to the conversation to be able to win, but we also have a few experts that are joining us in a panel discussion on how consumers can access home ownership in all its different facets. We'll be joined by Tshepo Mashashane, Head of Strategy and Positioning at Absa Home Loans. We'll also be joined by Portia Leklape, Head of Product at Absa Home Loans, as well as Mabuye Mukwena, property entrepreneur, member of SA Property Investors Network, who is an Absa strategic partner. So we will open up the lines as well for any of the questions that you'd like to ask of our experts. Don't forget primemediaplus.com or download the app if you want to catch up. We've got a year's worth of fantastic conversations where we've all been growing and learning in our home ownership journey. So looking forward to hearing from you. Give us a call 011-883-0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
With Relebogile Mabotja.
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
When was the last time you did something for the first time? And if you say you can't remember, you are definitely not alone, because there are many people who are living lives where they aren't having new experiences. And there's so many different ways that you can have new experiences. I'll give an example. My dear colleague Clement Manyatela is currently in Europe, and I was looking at some of his, content, and he was doing some forest experience. And I thought to myself, as I was chatting to him in the early hours of this morning, I said, you really are living a life where you're having first-time experiences. And I envy that so much because he is so intentional about it. And even with me, I shouldn't have waited till, I'm going to turn 40 to want to have new experiences. What I can tell you it has done for me, I think the last time I had a very new experience was when I was in Mauritius, and I literally went jumping into the ocean and scubaing by myself with no jacket, swimming with turtles, sailing, and also super tubing. There is something that happens to you, and it almost feels like reconnecting with your childhood self. But I'm so glad joining us in studio is Sinem, the founder of Conscious Psychologist, who is going to join us in this conversation. Sinem, does what I'm saying resonate at all? Because what I ended up saying to my therapist when I came back, and he was like, how was it? I said, oh my gosh, it's almost like I forgot who the inner child in me is, like the essence of who I am. And that experience just allowed me to feel a lot more free. I wasn't stressed about ESCOM. I wasn't stressed about bills. I was just like, oh my gosh, there's a turtle right here. Oh my gosh, look at all the fish. Oh my gosh, I'm in the sky.
Exactly. So what this does for us is it gets us out of our routine, because that's what we're in Johannesburg specifically. But as adults, we're, going through our day, going through work, trying to put food on the table, and we forget to do things that bring us joy. And even if it's a little thing, I always have conversations with my colleagues around, why is it that we had first experiences when we were kids, but as adults, we don't put that much energy into that. So what you're saying is absolutely true. I think it's so important to have first experiences, but also because it's so good for our mental health.
So good. And I also just realized I had a mini light bulb moment with my son, in the sense that obviously there are things toddlers do that for us as adults are like, you should not be doing this, right? And I realized that when I do the stop, don't do that, I am depriving him of certain experiences. So, for example, I was pouring salt and he stuck his tongue out. And the natural thing to do is to be like, don't do that. But he is curious. So I lick the salt. Then you've experienced it. But it's almost like there's a part of us that automatically wants to stop out of fear. Or what would you say it is?
So it is a bit of fear, but it's also our need for familiarity. I think as human beings, we love what's familiar. It helps us feel in control. And things that aren't familiar, like, for example, your son wanting to lick the salt, it's almost like that gets us out of our routine. And it's almost like, oh, I wouldn't do that, so you don't do that.
Yes.
But it helps us explore, and it helps us keep us curious. But on a more biological level, it helps us with dopamine and serotonin release. And that's the feel-good hormone, something that we all need a lot more of. So what these first experiences, especially if they're positive first experiences or first experiences that help us grow our curiosity, it
it releases these hormones in our brains and it makes us feel good, not only temporarily, but in the long run as well.
So I want to invite all of you listening about your first experiences that you've had. Share them with us and tell us what they did for you and what were they. And I also want to just emphasize that first experiences don't have to be huge things. Not everybody's going to get to swim with turtles in another country. But the first experience could be going to a restaurant where they're selling crocodile and trying something new. And I'm wondering from all of you, are you intentional about your first experiences, or are these things that if they happen, they happen? Or maybe you have somebody in your life who's a super adventurous person and they make it a point to say, whenever I go hiking, it has to be at a new trail. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Your voice.
Your life
Your afternoon radio.
on 702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
I see some of your messages already coming through on the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. But also, you have called us. Tell us about your first time, your most recent, the last time you had a first time experience. Yo, guys, English. The last time you had a first time experience, what it did for you, big or small. We go to the lines. Lelo in Lindbro Park. Hi, Lelo.
Yo, man.
Good, and you?
Ah, perfect, man.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, man. This topic reminds me like my first time, buying myself a car.
Ooh.
Like literally buying myself a car. Nobody contributed. I bought it myself. You understand? So it was such a good feeling. So as I was saying, that feeling again, I used to be driven by my parents to home in Port Elizabeth, and all of the public transport and stuff. But the first time I took my family to Port Elizabeth with another car now, that was another feeling. You know the sea breezes when you enter Port Elizabeth.
I will.
I went, Antonia, in my car. Yeah, I've got like now a couple of kids now. They were like enjoying. I was like, this is me. It used to be me, my dad in this seat. I used to be at the back, But now, I'm taking my family at home. That was a nice feeling.
Oh, I love that for you. You're busy reminding me of my son's first road trip to the ocean and just remembering. I even was playing the music my parents used to play in the car when we would go on holiday, your Spyro Gyra and Andy Naral. Thank you for sharing such a beautiful memory. Mpo in Kailami, hi.
The first for us as a family, and this is post-divorce process, was going to New York with the kids. Like, it was just us, and it was the first time in ever that we literally went. And it was such a huge thing, because you can imagine, we've never done this. The hecticness of taking a train with these people that I'm now solely accountable for. Like, when we came back, it did something for us, isn't? We've got this. We can go through this process, tough as it is. But look, we survived New York, and if you can survive New York, I mean, really, what's a divorce type of thing? So it did psychologically do a huge thing for me and the kids specifically.
I think you've created a little bit of a hack, Mpo, for the people listening, possibly going through a divorce and maybe feeling like, how am I going to do this? Especially if you are the parent with the kids, worrying about being a single parent home. And you literally dived into the deep end and everybody swam.
Yeah, no, they did. As in, I didn't even make a schedule in terms of things that we need to do. Whatever. So literally the kids were responsible for day-to-day life. The train. I mean, the craziest part was when in New York, when we went to the China City or China, whatever.
Chinatown, yes.
Yes, man. Because we are not used to public transport like that. And we went in on the wrong side of the track. So, and the kids having to navigate this whole process with the kids. As feared, like they were so scared, but we survived the fear. We survived, and we get to the hotel, They're like, yo, how crazy was that? We literally survived. So it's literally coming back from the trip. We're like, okay, now we've got this. Now we've settled. We can do things just us. And like what you're saying, it does a huge thing for the family, for the parent that is left with the kids. It does a huge, psychologically, it means we can do this, we can survive. Bring it on.
Thank you so much, Mpho, for sharing. I mean, Sinem, how beautiful is that? We spoke in general about the mental health, but it was just reminding me about the confidence. Do you think that sometimes as grown-ups, we forget how, because whenever I hear people speak about confidence, it's either work-related or it's confidence in relation to relationships, like interpersonal relationships. But it's not often confidence in like just overall. Maybe share with us about some of those benefits and maybe what we overlook.
So I think you're absolutely right. I think when we think of confidence, we think about relationships or am I performing at work? But it's little first-time experiences, like Mpho mentioned, that allows you to feel like, okay, I've got this. I'm a good parent. I'm doing the best I can in that moment. And it does grow our confidence and our self-esteem. And, I recently did a survey with Cadbury, and over 52,000 South Africans feel like they cannot remember their last first-time experience. And that just tells us that, we're lacking in self-esteem, we're lacking in confidence, but we're also just in this routine that's making us feel dull and unhappy at the moment. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
And I think it's great that Cadbury had launched that campaign of the Generous First, where people could nominate someone that they believe deserves an unforgettable first-time experience. Can you touch on how that goes, why that works for us as communities? Why us as individuals becoming better versions of ourselves, pouring into that well of experience, of confidence, of mental health actually works for the better of our communities.
So I think, if you really look at our society, I think we're experiencing an experience slump, which means that, again, we're lacking in joy. We're in this routine. Our days almost blend into each other. And I think what's great about what Cadbury is doing with this initiative is that it's not only bringing us, joy and bringing us the ability to nominate someone who we think needs a first-time experience, but it's also about Ubuntu. It's about bringing us together as a nation. I am because you are.
Yep.
And I think, we really need to foster that connection. I think as South Africans, we are, such a diverse population that fosters connection, and we need that, and we need to build on that a little bit more, I believe.
Very interesting question here, and keep them coming on 0727021702. And I'm going to direct this to you, Sinem. They say, how does one balance the magic of first-time experiences against the ability to find joy in the familiar or mundane? Some people are almost addicted to the novelty of first experiences, so that when the novel becomes familiar, boredom sets in. It can be dangerous to fashion a life around first experiences at the expense of finding meaning in the mundane. What are your thoughts? And my gut immediately reading that was possibly finding a different way of doing the mundane. So maybe you usually eat lunch at your desk, go outside. What are your thoughts?
I think that's such an interesting question because, again, we all love familiarity, and what makes us feel like we can't step out of this routine is fear, and feeling like we aren't in control. But I think we have to know ourselves enough to know that, we're feeling like a bit of boredom at the moment, and even something small like taking a different route to work might get us out of that routine and might make us feel like, okay, this is not so scary. It's small steps, it's little steps, but I can slowly work my way up to doing something bigger, and having more first-time experiences.
All right. More of your messages are coming through. One says, I recently had a bacon, roast chicken and pasta wrap from Woolies that contained orzo It was orzo is those little pasta that looks like rice. It was the first time I had had that form of pasta, and I'm officially addicted. My next dog's name will be Orzo, and it'll definitely be my death row meal. You see what first time experiences can do. Another one says, Lebo, I have been to Namibia on holidays numerous times, but in 2021, I climbed up the highest dune in Namibia called Dune 7 in Walvis Bay for the first time. That is from Togid in Randburg. And then another person says, please keep me anonymous. I'm 52. I'm about to run Comrades for the first time. A lifelong dream. Looking forward to meeting a part of me I don't know yet. Oh, I love it for you. Please keep inspiring us. We've got Tim in Pretoria. Tim, go ahead.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, good.
Yeah, guys, divorce can show you flames. Eh?
Ish.
Divorce. As soon as I, signed the last paper on the settlement, I just took a car and drove to Cape Town. It was really not planned. From Pretoria, drove all the way. It was a bunch of whole new experiences, like being in the different places. I remember driving on the mountain, looking down at Pau. It was the most beautiful, scene. And I probably would have never done it unless I had gone through that traumatic experience.
Oh,
so,
Tim.
It was really a trigger that I kind of needed, because it kind of opened up a whole new world of experiences. I'm just excited to share about that sometimes, your lowest point can lead you to your highest point. So, divorce can be one of those triggers that I wanted to share.
There's nothing more exciting than, for me as well, being on the open road by yourself gives you an opportunity to think. You sing, you play those old songs. You just have that time to yourself, and I'm so glad you were able to have that experience. On the WhatsApp line, Lebo, jet skiing in Dubai with my brother, first time ever, and I loved it. I always wanted to do it, but most of my friends don't like water. That moment was everything for me. Another person says, Lerato says, I recently got my first tattoo about 2 weeks ago, after agonizing for years, thinking it will be painful, but all is well now. We've got a voice note on 072 702 1702.
Lebo, my first time experience was when we went for my wife's birthday in KZN, and we went on a date night to Roma Revolving. Yeah, it was the first time eating in a restaurant that is moving. It was spinning around. 1 minute I was looking at the ocean, the next I was looking at the harbor, the next I was looking somewhere else, and it was just such a great evening. It was amazing. It was a best first time.
I love how these are not our first time experiences, but we're smiling like we were there, right?
Exactly. Sounds amazing. And I think something that I want to share is that I've never been on the Gautrain. And
girl!
I've never. And I'm dying to do that. And I think that would be a great first time experience.
Sorry, my mouth, but it makes sense, because if you've never needed to, what I can tell you with the Gautrain, the way we were so excited, my dad and my brothers and I, we decided we're going to ride. And I think we went from Pretoria all the way to the airport. We had lunch and then got back and went back home. And I think it's also okay to do stuff like that, where you can just ride the train to say, I've been on the train. Yvonne in Parkmore, go ahead.
Hi, Relebogile, how are you?
Good, and you?
Okay, my first time I climbed Mount Batu. I was 54 years old. And if I'd seen it in the day, I would have never gone. So we leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we climbed up 3,850 feet. It's a volcano type of cliff, and you slide and slide. I would have never done it if I saw it. But I'm so glad I did it. It was such an experience at that age to experience it with my husband. It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anything can top that for me at this age now.
Which mountain did you say that was?
Mount Batu in Bali.
Oh,
Mount Batu.
wow.
And all you saw, you were climbing up, but you're climbing on the ash, and you just go, you hear people falling. And I just thought, and we were the oldest people that had gone in a while. He says he had one that was about 59, and we were 54 and 57. It was such an experience. But like I said, if I had seen it before, I would have not done it, because, you limit yourself. You limit yourself with what you don't know, you limit yourself.
Oh.
And it was the best experience. And I mean, I actually conquered a lot of fears that year in Bali. I went underwater, 40 meters down. I don't do anything that covers my face. So that year was an amazing year for me. I conquered a lot of heights, climbing up the mountain. I don't know what I want to do at 65. So I want to try something ridiculous. Something that
Can I
do.
share something that I think you can do?
Yes.
Go to Antarctica. It's a 24-hour trip, but you must save quite a bit of money. That is a definite first-time experience that I think you would love. I've never been as well, but I'm working towards it.
Oh, that's nice. Well, let's pray. God gives me grace to stay a little bit longer so I can save some money.
There we go, Yvonne in Parkmore. We need to go to the news, but when we come back, we continue. It's just after 1:30. Time for your latest and Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. The daughter of a man who died in a crossfire shooting between police and alleged suspects at the Zamimpilo informal settlement in Rivoli says her father was on his way home from his night job. Gauteng police say they were conducting a routine patrol in the area last night when they identified a suspicious vehicle with 3 people in it. The Toyota bakkie drove away when police tried stopping it, leading them into the informal settlement where a shootout ensued. EFF leader Julius Malema is visiting the home of late actor Presley Choniagaye in Pretoria today. Choniagaye, best known for his role in the Oscar-winning film Tsotsi, passed away at the age of 40 last week from a respiratory illness. And the search for a young girl who went missing 18 years ago is set to resume in Portugal. Madeline McCann was just 3 years old when she vanished while on holiday with her parents, sparking a Europe-wide investigation. Investigations conducted years after the little girl's disappearance led to a prime suspect, Christian Bracknacker, who is currently serving a sentence in Germany for the rape of a 72-year-old American tourist in Portugal in 2005. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling on the N3 North, we've got delays between the Geldenhuys Interchange and Van Buren Road. Please be on the lookout there. While in Fourways, there's queuing traffic along Winnie Mandela Drive towards Leslie. There's also queuing traffic along the M2 West in the Crown City area, approaching Main Reef Road. Main Reef Road in itself, it's backed up towards the Albertina Sisulu Road. Please be on the lookout there. While travelling in the city of Tshwane, some delays have been reported on the N1 South, right after the Barkfontein Interchange. In fact, there's an accident there before Samrand Avenue. It's causing delays. Please be on the lookout and try to avoid. More updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Smart Steve from Momentum. Hello.
Hey, Smart Steve. Amir here. Listen, man, I got a problem, right?
Okay.
My little princess is turning 18, and now she's got a license and a boyfriend. And you know what these roads and young boys are like at night. Y'all check.
So you're worried about her safety. Just add it to the Momentum app so she can access Help 24/7 with Momentum's Safety Alert.
Is that the emergency response version of Curry in a Hurry? Listen, man, Steve. Does my Momentum car insurance give me that?
For sure. Once she's added, she can get help at the touch of a button, no matter whose car she's in.
Free? Mahala for all that and all?
Yes, for free. Your peace of mind and her safety at no cost.
Oh, Steve, one last thing. Does it come with a boyfriend ejector seat?
Not yet, but I'll mention it to the team. Visit momentum.co.za to get a quote. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is an authorized non-life insurer and FSP. Standard SMS rates and T's and C's apply. FSP 22789.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Time to get Avolicious, because they're just so nutritious. From delectable toast to fab salads, everybody loves Avos because they're super versatile. Plus, they're high in heart-healthy fats, vitamin K, and biotin, free from cholesterol and sodium, and can form part of a successful energy-controlled diet for weight management. And remember, green skin Avos remain green, while dark skin Avos turn purple-black when ripe. For avalicious recipes and more info about the South African Avocado Growers Association, visit avocado.co.za.
Weekday evenings at 6.
We had a conversation with the Chief Commissioner of the International Trade Administration Commission, Ayabonga Kawe, about their plans to charge fees for people to apply for permits to import and export goods into the country.
We've tried to find a balance in this process. We're not out here to try and kind of maximize billable revenue. That's not what we're in the business of. Some of the exemptions are for individuals or non-profit generating firms.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is a registered FSP. Your story matters. 702, let's walk the talk.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja.
24 minutes to 2 o'clock. We're continuing our conversation on the last time you had a first time experience and what it did for you. We are joined in this by Sinam, the founder of Conscious Psychologist. 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. Get your messages in. Share what you gained from those first time experiences. And maybe now that we're talking, what are you going to do going forward? 011-883-0702, the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. A message on the WhatsApp line, afternoon, Relebogile. That moment I gave my parent a share of my first pay and that look and thanks I got from them. May their happy souls rest peacefully. Whoa, that was the one and only special moment that still lives on. Thanks from M to M is what they say. Another one says, afternoon 702 with Relebogile and team. 2015, March the 2nd. A ship cruise to Portuguese islands. Before then, I swore that I will never get onto a ship, and seeing Titanic made things worse. But the 2nd of March 2015 changed everything. My mom paid for the cruise with her pension money. I could not disappoint her, but she cannot feed my addiction to the cruise now. I love that these first-time experiences are also introducing everybody, not just to first-time experiences, but new hobbies and new loves, new obsessions. Ooh, Lebo, I decided to date outside of my tribe. And it was quite interesting. It really made me open-minded and broke down the negative preconceived ideas that I was made to believe about dating outside my tribe. I really enjoy the difference in culture. It makes things more interesting. Dating within the tribe is a big deal in my family. So this was something else. Your voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Yo. Was the first time to go to Durban or go on the ocean. Refitlile late kabo somewhere there about past 4 to 5 somewhere there. This that nyale alone. When we were still far, get out. Go inside like me kuku or where me kuku or ke some ke ngar me kuku or ke lebala. Ke land whatever. You know what? I was so embarrassing. People they were laughing me. I know we were really for. No, I see me kuku is the ocean. Instantly, the put that thing, and in the moon again we went there, on the ocean mall. Yeah, there's a beach there. You know, literally, when we're coming far there, I'm so embarrassing. Was the first time there.
Hi, Relebogile. So I'm a 44-year-old woman who has never swum in her life, because I've always been scared of swimming and whatever. So I've taken up swimming, and I've only done, I think, about 4 lessons now. But I'm going to tell you, the first lesson was horrible. I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my life. And I don't even know what I was scared of, but I was really scared. And but then it's now so much better. But I was so happy with myself that evening. I was like, it's like I woken up something in me. Not that I got into water necessarily, but that I defeated something in me. So it was such a good experience. Okay, bye.
Hi, Lebo. I was 50 years old in April, and as a gift to myself, I'm going to attend the men's final Roland Garros in Paris as a birthday gift, and as a tennis fan, that's my very first time. So it's a beautiful first time for me.
You guys have such awesome ideas. Like, my mind is bubbling. What are you thinking, Sinem, with all of these experiences that are being shared? Like, it's so inspiring. And I'm also wondering, does it? I think that it counts as a first time experience if you're doing something for the first time as an adult. I'll give an example. The last time I was like riding a bicycle was as a teenager. And I feel like it's going to feel like riding it for the first time again as an adult.
Exactly. And I think that's such a good point, because we often think that, as adults, we can't have these first time experiences. They're meant for when we were kids, but it's not like that. And I think everyone has such amazing ideas, like you said. And I think something else that I just want to point out is that when we have a first time experience, our brain also has a positive memory to hold on to. So when we're going through something challenging, when we're going through a really difficult time, we can always refer back to our memory and feel good again when we think about that experience. And I think that's something that's also so important for us.
What are your thoughts on if a person does try something new and it sucks, like that experience similar to the listener who said the first lesson sucked, but then they went back? So do you think you can have a do-over of a first time?
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to that person's resilience, is that the first time wasn't that great, but they put themselves out there, they got out of their comfort zone, and the second time may have been a bit better. And I think that in itself will also build their confidence, which I think is also great.
What would you advise? Because sometimes the idea of a first time experience is really daunting. What would you advise people can do if they want to start creating pockets? While I was busy exploring, okay, what do I want to do? What is, there's big things, there's also little things. I even saw and read somewhere someone who said, at least once a month, take yourself out for breakfast at a new place. And I thought, such a simple thing, where breakfast is not like this really pricey meal, but it's important that you go alone and just try a new breakfast spot, or once a month commit to a cultural experience, be it an art gallery, be it an orchestra. Somebody was telling me that they've never been live to see an orchestra, and they went to go to that candlelight thing, and they're like, why have I never done this before? Why didn't I start sooner?
Exactly. And I think it doesn't have to be monetary things. So it can also be an emotional thing. So the first time you tell someone you love them, for example, or walking through your childhood home. I think these are also experiences that mean so much to people. But also, like you said, going to a restaurant spot, maybe having coffee on your own, because I think it's really scary to sit there on your own and have coffee, but it's so liberating. I did that for the first time last week, actually.
What? Please tell me, and this is the question I need to know. Did you sit there with looking at your phone, or did you sit and have coffee like alone, phoneless?
So initially I had my phone, and then I
Yes.
caught myself and I was like, no, this is not the purpose about why you came here alone.
Yes.
Put your phone away, enjoy your coffee, look around and just take everything in. So I think it's also a conscious decision that you have to make about just being present when you are there on your own.
What else can you share with us, especially from, the survey and the initiative that Cadbury is doing, that can help all of us walk away with gems, and I almost feel like kind of a new chapter?
So I think, Cadbury is a brand that has always been big on generosity, and again, we did a survey looking at, people's mental health and what they can do, not only for themselves, but gifting somebody else a first-time experience can also give you a huge sense of purpose. And that person that receives that first-time experience also feels seen and loved and cared for. So I think, if this is something that you feel like you need in your life, I think going onto Cadbury's website and just researching a little bit more around what they're doing with this initiative will, I think, take us all out of the slump that we're in and help us, build some more connection.
When are you going on the Gau train?
I'm hoping next week.
Okay. And guys, not everything needs to be tried. And by that, I mean, there are things that you don't have to try. You don't have to do substances, illegal substances. You don't have to try everything. Can you imagine now your 80-year-old grandmother's like, Relebogile said now. They can be wholesome, fulfilling, they can be simple, but more importantly, they must be something that is going to be special to you because it's a you experience. But also there's so much joy in shared experiences. And I love what you said about gifting new experiences, especially when you know what a person loves. So maybe somebody loves supercars and maybe you can't afford to buy them a supercar, but you can afford to give them the experience of driving a supercar on a track. And if it's not necessarily something that is a pricey thing, you can gift the person who never grew up going to Milky Lane and the ice skating rink for their birthday parties, those experiences. And I think they can be just so wholesome and awesome. In closing, what are your final thoughts?
I just think that, this is such an amazing segment that you have on your show today because, we always speak about mental health and we always speak about, maybe going to see a psychologist or self-care. But we often forget that taking care of your mental health doesn't have to be this big thing. It can be small acts of kindness or small first experiences. And I think we need to hold that in mind and remember that, we need to come together and foster this connection so that we can build our mental health as South Africans.
Thank you for reminding us that. I heard somebody say that self-care has almost become performative in the sense that it has to look like going to the spa or whatever. But sometimes self-care is just laying on your bed, not sleeping, just feeling and just being. And I so appreciate your time and coming to share with us, Sinem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all the listeners.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
How far will the end be? The Russia-Ukraine war continues. South Africa, with the recent visit by President Zelensky, we've positioned ourselves as potential mediators. Is there still a role for a country like South Africa?
It is definitely. There is a role. We'll continue this work with all involved countries unless we bring the last child home to Ukraine.
Lyubov Abravitova, the Ukrainian ambassador to South Africa.
Gani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Hey, remember when our office turned into an indoor swimming pool from the flood incident we had? Oh yeah, feels like it was just yesterday. Luckily, we are with My Way Business Insurance and they kept us afloat despite the soaked carpets. Talk about an insurer that's got your back no matter the situation. Agreed. With My Way, we can weather any storm with the ultimate confidence.
Cover your building and office contents hassle-free with MyWay Business Insurance. Visit myway.co.za for a quote and do business your way. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour. Or should I say, my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here, we have the pantry. Now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought? The oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Infrastructure connects economies. Finance powers the vision. This week on 702, RMB Africa Focus explores how financial solutions are enabling the infrastructure that drives real economic change. Join award-winning journalist Crystal Alderson as she sheds light on the financial innovation and major infrastructure for projects that are reshaping the future of African cities, industries, and trade routes. That's RMB Africa Focus on 702 Drive with John Pullman this Thursday. RMB is a proud sponsor of B20 and a leading African corporate and investment bank.
702 Finance Feature.
10 minutes to 2 o'clock. And in our finance feature for today, we're talking about building wealth in your late 30s and 40s. Is it too late for us or is it possible? Audible 1 8830702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. We're joined by Darren Berendt, who is Investec Life CEO and head of My Investments. Darren, how are you? Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me this afternoon.
So you are speaking to the exact person of late 30s going on 40. And I'm curious as to what qualifies as wealth when we say building wealth.
Yeah, so I think for many of us, we think about wealth in the context of investment, savings, and often retirement. So for many people, when they get to 40, they start worrying about, what does their retirement look like? Have they saved enough for retirement? And I think it's always, to me, it's important because there's a natural question there around why do people only start worrying about saving for retirement, after their 40s? And that's because there's just a lot of responsibilities that exist before that. And, that may not be retirement savings, may not be investing, but often it comes down to investing in your family. In South Africa, we're traditionally a society where people need cars, they need houses, for their families. Those are big purchases. So, it's not people being reckless with their money. Often it's just up to your 30s and 40s. You have, responsibilities around investing in your family that takes a lot of those excess resources for that period of time.
And I think especially looking at our country and our history and our past, many people have to, build homes for families, buy cars for families before they even get to do it for themselves. So, investing for your future and building wealth becomes lower on the priority list. But knowing that, Darren, what are the things that we can start doing? So if, let's say, there is a 45-year-old who is like, okay, I'm done. I've sorted out everybody at home. And now I've got a few extra thousands. What should they start looking at?
So I think the most important thing is, especially for people who are starting to think about retirement savings a little bit later on, the most important thing is to put in place a plan you can stick to and a well thought out plan. So often that does involve getting some advice, speaking to a financial advisor, speaking to an expert who can help, understand your specific needs, where you are, to your point, what is your capacity to save over and above what you may be saving through your company pension, etc., and to try to put that plan together for you. I think one of the things around starting a bit later is that your margin for error is a little bit smaller. So, if you can start in your 20s, you see the data all the time around how little you have to save per month if you start in your 20s versus if you start in your 40s or 50s to get to the same outcome. But it doesn't mean it's too late. You can still put a proper plan together and speak to a professional. I think the other thing is that in South Africa, we are lucky that there is a lot of tools we can use and that are actually quite efficient for us, that are there to promote effectively long-term savings. Things like tax-free investments or savings, things like retirement annuities and so on, which give us, not only the security around saving and building that wealth for the future, but also give us a lot of tax benefits and other financial benefits. So it is important to speak to an expert, and it is important in that process with the expert to really take advantage of all those tools that we have in place.
Do you think that there's possibly a psychology among us as South Africans, which I know I'm still hoping that I'm going to win the Powerball, that we want like a windfall of massive cash as opposed to building slow, even if it's 50 Rand to start?
Look, I don't think it's a South African thing, but that is actually one of the biggest risks. So I think one of the biggest risks is that for people who are now really focusing on building their own wealth and saving for their later years, where you do start a little bit later, it's easy to fall into that trap that you think it's impossible and it needs some kind of big windfall. You need to, like you said, win the lotto or, whatever it may be. And I think the biggest thing to realize, and that I'd reiterate, is that that's not the case. The reality is that, we're living longer, we're working longer. It may not be in the same shape or form as we work up to our 60s or 65, but the reality is that, that there's our life stages are changing, and that little bit that you save from as early as possible, together with the fact that you're going to be functional for much longer, means that it's not an impossible task, and you don't need to, you don't have to win the lotto, or even worse, there are so many get-rich-quick schemes out there that pull people in and have dire financial impacts on people. That's really what you have to avoid.
What, as we close, would you say is something that people should not do? Because we hear so many stories of, for example, people cashing out their pensions and then pouring it all into something that they hope will turn over, or maybe when they're changing jobs, they go and pour all of their savings or their pensions and then, are at the risk of losing it all.
Yeah, so I think one of the main things I would land is that there's two pieces to wealth creation and wealth preservation. The one is the investing piece, and the other piece is the insurance piece. And I think we often neglect those. The stats show that. So you're proactive. You sit down, and to your point earlier, you know that you can find a few thousand Rand a month to save. You sit down with an advisor. You do a good job around putting a plan together and getting on that journey. Unfortunately, in life, unexpected things happen. If you're the primary breadwinner and something happens to you, your plan may be the best laid plan, but you could be just too early, and that could leave your family in a very difficult situation. The same thing specifically around what we call living benefits. So the kind of things that, where you need insurance, where it's not because you've passed away. Either you get disabled or, severe illness. And we hate talking about these things because it's not a good conversation. But while you're on that journey to building wealth, it is so important to make sure you have the right insurance in place to just make sure that if something happens to you, that plan can be accelerated. And either that's for your benefit or it could be for your family's benefit. But those two things are, the investment side and the insurance side are two sides of the same coin. And I think most people think about the investment piece and they forget the insurance piece.
Definitely. And I think, excuse me, that is such an important point that you're raising. Darren, I know this is not the last time we will be speaking on such topics. Thank you so much for your time.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The Gauteng Police Commissioner has condemned the conduct of Westbury community members who attacked members of the anti-gang unit. Fani Masemola says officers deployed to fight gang-related crimes in the area were pelted with rocks while on patrol. The officers were attacked when they arrested a man found in possession of drugs during a stop-and-search operation yesterday. Westbury is one of 7 areas in Gauteng where the community has been battling with drug and gang-related crime.
General Fani Masemola has expressed his disappointment in the conduct of this community that often complain about high crime levels in the area.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Every small business owner knows that you got to dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 100,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So, if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3429. Just once, I wish instead of a compulsory stand-up, someone would send me a meeting request for a compulsory lie down. No wonder everyone hates millennials.
Hating the corporate 9 to 5? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's easy and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin in the west of Johannesburg, where the daughter of a man who died in a cross